liberty to the captives, oil of gladness. Wow. Powerful stuff, right? Thank you, Nicole, for inviting me to be here. It's wonderful to be back among you. Wonderful to see my very first dean training me how to be a counselor and dean at Silver Lake. And many of you from Silver Lake here. And Davida, who also invited me to share this story for the first time. When the Connecticut Conference of the United Church of Christ was actively embracing this story of the Amistad as our story and an important story for us to know. Was that 20 years? How many years ago was it? Okay, few. Not quite 20 years ago. So a lot has happened since then, and we know so much more about the story, and we've explored many different aspects of the story, which is really wonderful. But when I spoke with Nicole, she invited me to tell it the way that she had heard me do it, which was actually the first way that I entered into the story of the Amistad captives. When we look at history, so often we experience what happened through the victors and those who wrote the story. And oftentimes they are the men, and particularly the white men who tell the story. Even the white men lifted up Singbe, Pie, Sinke, however it is we want to say his name. But when I was introduced to the story of the Amistad and Davida planted a little seed, there was a little girl named Margru who was a part of the captives. And actually she did go home to Africa. And eventually she came back and taught. Went to school in Oberlin, and was a Christian woman, took on a Christian name, and then went back to Africa and had a school there. And there's still a school in her honor, in her name. But when I first looked at the story of the Amistad, I wondered how Margru might have told the story of her experience before she became Sarah. What if Margru, at maybe 10-ish, almost 10 years old, was nearby in Connecticut on that March day when the word came down that the Supreme Court had declared that the Amistad captives were free? What if Margru at 10 years old was kind of around when the celebrating broke out? But what if Margru maybe stepped away from that moment of celebration to have a conversation with her mother, who was on the other side of the ocean, great big water, whom she hadn't seen in 2 years? Maybe a face she barely remembered. I like to imagine that maybe Margru talked to her mother throughout the whole ordeal. So let's pretend, if you will, that I'm Margru. And I have just found out that we are free. And I've stepped away from where the drumming is. Mommy, it's me, Margru. Me, your daughter, your little black snake. Oh, Mommy, I want to tell you what happened. Maybe you've heard it on the sound of the drums coming across the water or through the wind all the way back home. Maybe you know this, but Mommy, the great big court in this land has declared that we are free. Oh, Mommy, I think I will come home soon. And when I come home soon, Mommy, I'm going to see your face. And I'm going to throw my arms around you, and I'm going to hug you, and I'm going to kiss you, and I'm going to tell you how much I love you. Oh, Mommy, it's been so long since I got to hug you, Mommy. Do you remember, Mommy? The last time I saw you? You remember, Mommy, we had just come from the fields, And you were showing me how to take care of the plants that were coming up out of the ground. And I had a calabash filled with water, and I put the water on the plants. And then when we came back into our village and close to our compound, that's when we saw that my father was talking to somebody. And you had a worried look on your face, Mommy. And I was listening, and I could hear what they were saying. And then my father came to me, Mommy, do you remember? And he said, Margaret, you're going to go with this man now because I owe a debt to his family, and so you must go and be with him. Mommy, do you remember? I didn't want to leave you. I didn't want to leave you and my brothers and sisters, and I didn't want to leave my father. But you said that I had to go, and I hugged you one last time, and you wiped away my tears. And then I left you, and I went with that man to his village. And it was kind of like home at first for some time. But then some traders came in, Mommy, and that man gave me to them, and that's when I knew everything was different. Mommy, I went with a stranger, and we walked for many, 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 many days, all far from all of the trees, until we came to water, Mommy. A great big water. It was as big as the sky above our heads. I'd never seen so much water. They crowded us into this area, Mommy, and there were so many people, and not everybody spoke Mendi, Mommy. But there was one man. He was called Singbei, and he stayed close to me. He could speak Mendi. And there were 3 other children, and we stayed close to Singbei. He kept us. And when they took us out of that pen, Mommy, and they put us on a big ship that was right out there in that water, Mommy. And then we sailed away from home. And we were in that boat for a long time, Mommy. I don't know, 3 moons went round. And one day everybody on that boat got excited because off in the distance they could see land. And I could see land. And I thought maybe we're coming home, but it wasn't home at all, Mommy. I heard them say it was Cuba. And Singbei told us to stay close. And when we got to that land of Cuba, they made us walk in the dark, Mommy. They didn't want us to be outside in the daylight. I don't know why, but they were trying to keep us quiet. And soon in the morning when the sun rose, we were in this big pen, Mommy. And then there were men coming through the pen, Mommy, and they were touching our arms and opening our mouths to see if we were healthy. And then, Mommy, there were a bunch of us. Me, and Temi, and Kagni, and Kali, and Singbei, and 53 in all, Mommy. And we were taken to another boat. They said this boat was called Amistad. Mommy, they said that Amistad means friendship. But on that boat, we didn't find friendship at all. We were so frightened on that boat because the cook said to Singbei that we were going to be killed and thrown into the soup. And when Singbei heard that, he talked to us children and he asked Kali, because we didn't always have to stay in the bottom, Mommy. Sometimes they would let us go up on the decks while they kept all the grown ones chained up below, especially Singbei. But he asked us to get a nail, to find a nail. And Kali, he found a nail, Mommy, and he gave it to Singbei. And Singbei kept it tucked right underneath his arm. And then, Mommy, 3 days we were on that boat, and there was a great big storm. The wind was terrible, and the rain was terrible, and there was so much noise. But when all of that noise happened, Mommy, Singbei called for us children to come. And then he said that we needed to help him. He had that nail already, and he used that nail, and he started to unlock his chains. And once once Singbei was free, he took that nail and went around and he unlocked the chains of everybody who was down below. And then, Mommy, they started very quietly. And they started to make their way towards the stairs that went up to the decks. And we were going with him. We children were going, Mommy. Kali, Gagni, and Teme, we were all going. But he turned and he told us to stay down below. And so we couldn't see everything that happened. And it was hard to hear what was happening because of the storm. But there were lots of screaming and crying. And afterwards, when it was quiet, when the screaming stopped and when the storm stopped, they came down, and then they went and they opened up chests and things, and they took out the clothes of the men who were driving that ship, and then they said, "We are going home." Singbei said, "We are going home." Oh, Mommy, you don't know how excited we were to be thinking we were going home and I was going to see you again. And so at night, Singbei knew the direction for home because he could... Oh no, he didn't know. Because the stars were different. The stars weren't like at home. He only knew which way to sail when the sun was shining. And so some of the men were his prisoners now. And he ordered them, Singbei did, to sail us back home. But, Mommy, they didn't. Singbei would sail towards home in the day, and at night, because they knew the stars, they would turn. We went up and down, and one day we were surrounded by a great big ship again, off of a Connecticut, Long Island Sound, they called it. And then, Mommy, they brought us to a prison, and they spoke languages we didn't know. But finally somebody came who could speak Mende. Oh, and once he came, oh, Mommy, everything started to be better. As soon as Singbei could communicate, as soon as we could speak our language, we could tell them that we wanted to be free, we wanted to go home, that we had been stolen from home, Mommy. And so the people came. They came from the churches, and they came from the university, and they came from the courts. And they also came to look at us. They paid much money to see us. But, Mommy, after almost 2 years, all those people who have come to help us took the court to the highest place, took our story to the highest place, and the highest court in this land where I am has said that we are free. And they say here in this place, Connecticut, that they are going to help us go back home. Mommy, that ship that we were on was called La Amistad, for friendship. We didn't find friendship on that ship. But Mommy, oh, I pray that we are going to find friendship here, and that these good friends in Connecticut will help me come back home. I love you, Mommy. Margaret, you're a little black snake. And now, Mommy, I'm going to go celebrate till I see you. Margaret, Sarah Margaret Kinson, our sister our daughter, our teacher. Amen. So, let us, it's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot. She's happy we're telling her story.